Hey, it's News from Heaven. Today we're going to be looking at why angels have good days and bad days. And in doing that, answer what I feel like are two potent questions. Which is one, is eternal life boring? If we do accept what seems like good news, that hey, you do survive after the death of the body, consciousness goes on. But what kind of, is it never stops? And is it just like you're always, even if you were happy and in a good spot, you're always like that? Is it boring? I mean, what if I kind of like the seasonal cycle of life? If it's always spring, am I going to be happy? There's one. But then the other one is looking at what are the realistic expectations for what we should be trying to pursue in our quest to achieve a happy mental state. Because there's all kinds of stuff out there telling us like, okay, here's how you affect or improve your mental surroundings. You worry so much, here's a way to try to not worry. Here's a way to not try to please other people so much that you degrade yourself in the process. Here's a way to live in the now. All of these are reactions to internal attacks of some kind. That with things, the thoughts and feelings that are streaming into you have negative connotations. Worry won't leave you alone. And we're trying to, generally change our internal weather system. Like, how can I, plug up this hole here so that I'm not worrying about the future anymore? How do I plug up this little hole here so that I'm not feeling like I'm worthless or something like that? But how much can we expect that this stuff will never be coming in? Do we get to a point where it's like, nope, nothing ever even gets close? Or is there something else but that can still exist within a sunshiny climate? We just know that, okay, here's how the weather system goes. All right, so like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you've been enjoying the show, that's a nice thing to do. Leave comments, and let's get into it. This is Heaven and Hell 154. You can download this for free. Click the link in the PDF. Follow along. And this is this section that begins with a title, believe it or not. How the states of angels in heaven change. Right away, dynamism. We have, even though you're an angel, it's not like, oh, I've got there and that's it. Roll credits, life is over. How the state of angels in heaven change. By the changes of angel states, what is it? What are you talking about, state? Like California, what is this? We mean their changes in regard to love and faith, and therefore in regard to wisdom and intelligence. So the great pairing, the grand duality, love and faith, wisdom and intelligence. Wait, no, this is not the grand duality. Whatever. It's some stuff in their mind. That stuff shifts around, which leads to the corresponding how it's like to be them day to day, the state of their life. So there's some kind of change in there. States are attribute, and by the way, worth getting to know your states because that's what there is instead of time in the spiritual world. FYI. States are attributes of life and of matters that pertain to life. And since angelic life is a life of love and faith, and thereby of wisdom and intelligence, states are attributes of these. And we talk about states of love and faith and states of wisdom and intelligence. You got it? Now we need to describe how these states change for angels. So the way that you think and feel, the way that you're perceiving how life is going on with you, the mood, the mindset, whatever it is that we go through that's analogous here, that changes for angels. Believe it or not, and you would think maybe they were, angels are just constantly angels, and they're always on their game. Angels are not constantly in the same state as to love, and consequently, they are not in the same state as to wisdom. For all wisdom they have is from their love and in proportion to it. So their understanding of life and the angelic perspective comes from what's going on in the heart and what feelings are motivating, and those fluctuate. What kind of fluctuations? Well, I'll tell you about it. Sometimes they are in states of intense love. And which you'd expect for an angel, sometimes in a state of love that is not intense. It decreases gradually from its most to its least intense. When they're in the highest level of love, they are in the light and warmth of their lives, or in the greatest clarity and delight. So if you had, some kind of little sine wave or whatever that is, angels go up and down. If this is your love, how deeply you're in the love that makes heaven. There's a time at which you really feel like, oh, I'm on. This is really happening here. This is where things are shining, like I'm full of love, and my understanding and all that is shining, and I'm up here. Conversely, and I'm happiest too when I'm in this state. Conversely, when they're in the lowest level, they're in shadow and coolness, or what is dim and unpleasant. Really? So for angels, let's say we have some kind of down curve here, right? You experience unpleasantness. And you might say, is this good news? I mean, you're talking about even in heaven we're going to have that. I would say it's not down to the level where we're fluctuating way down here. But still, there's something cyclical here. Shadow coolness, or what is dim and unpleasant. So not understanding in the same way, and then not in the same kind of joy. From this latter state, they return to the first. So this, as you probably could guess, loops around, and we continue this circle of life. Why? The phases follow each other with constant variety. And where have you ever had that? I mean, where does that occur in life? There's nothing around us in the world or in nature that seems to follow this like up, down, light, dark, warm, cold cycle, right? It's just this weird spiritual... I'm kidding. The states follow each other like variations of light and shade, warmth and cold, or like the morning, noon, evening, and night of individual days in our world, varying constantly throughout the year. Everything you see in the physical world is a correspondence to the spiritual world. So, when you have things like the cycles of the planet, the day-night cycle and everything that goes with it, every little bit of that is emblematic or physical ripple response to how things are in the world of the heart and mind, which is the spiritual world. So even the stuff that we go through, watching the seasons change, watching the globe spin, and the changes in the external world that produces, you find that in the heart and mind in the spiritual world, because everything is in this connected chain of reality. So angels go through their own days and nights. They go through their own seasons. They go through everything is growing and it's warm and it's great. Everything feels cold. And it's not, though, because of the spinning world. It's not because of physical. In this world, the main difference, physical stuff dictates what happens. And if you have like seasonal affective mood disorder, then the external stuff can really dictate what's going on inside you and all of us to an extent. Whereas in the spiritual world, it's the other way around, where the winter and the summer, when they happen, is having to do with what's going on inside the angels. And this is an interesting little wrinkle here. Not only that, they correspond. Morning, and you think about the way that things like morning and spring show up in poetry, and winter is a symbol for, loneliness or contemplative time. There's a correspondence there. Morning to the state of their love and clarity, noon to the state of their wisdom and clarity. Oh, that's fascinating. So you have, I'll get to evening in just a second. I know there's some evening fans out there. Morning to the state of their love and clarity, noon to the state of their wisdom and clarity. So if we go up here, it's actually sort of like, that there's a sort of a little bit of a lag, and you see that there's times when it's even brighter than it is warm. And you don't see this in the day-night cycle as much, but in the seasonal cycle, you certainly have, the shortest day is actually almost, at least where I am in the, U.S. East Coast, but it's replicated all around the world. The shortest day is actually near the beginning of winter. So the light sort of hits its low point before the warmth does. And then, same thing, you get the equinox or whatever it is in the summer. When there is a lag there. And it's so fascinating that you'd think, okay, there's got to be one greatest state for angels. Either like the greatest thing is when they have the most love or when they have the most wisdom, but they sort of have two peaks. Morning and the difference in the feel of these two times of day can give you an insight into what the difference in those two states of mind are. So morning to the state of their love and clarity. You think about what it feels like to wake up when wake up when your body actually wants to, rather than your alarm clock, but it's morning out and you're outside and you can kind of feel the energy of the day coming and the excitement for what can be there, and the birds are going crazy. That's the state of like, oh, love is really there. But then you think of noon, like when it's bright and you're getting things done. That's to the wisdom and clarity. So they both have their peaks, but it's different. This is the whole thing. There's love and there's wisdom. They're not the same, but they're complementary, and they love each other, but they're different. That's part of this cycle for the angels. Okay, then what about evening? Evening to the state of their wisdom and dimness, and night to a state of no love or wisdom. It should be known, though, and I just want to say there was a book by, I'm going to butcher the name, but Eli Wiesel that we read, I had read in school, called Night, which was about the Holocaust and the depravity around it, and it was called Night because we use this as a symbol of, the night of the heart, where there's not love and there's not wisdom. We know this correspondence. It should be known, though, that there is no correspondence of night with the states of people in heaven, but rather a correspondence on the half-light that comes before dawn. The correspondence of night is with people who are in hell. Okay, this is why we were talking here about, do angels really go as low down as the depths you can experience here, or even lower to what you're experiencing in hell? That actually, even at their lowest point, it's more like a twilight. Angels are never going to have no love and no wisdom. You're never going to come into contact with an angel who's just like, there's no reason to live, nothing means anything, and is some kind of threat. There's a contraction, there's a lessening, but it doesn't go down there. That there's no action. The state of night itself is a whole different thing. And some people say, is there going to be night, in heaven? I think that you could see the stars, you can have that experience, but something is different about the blackness of night in hell and where angels get to when this cycle is going through. Because of this correspondence, day and year in the Word means states of life in general. So if you're reading the Bible, it always talks about, this many days, this many years for something to happen. That's talking about these states. This is talking in spiritual time. Warmth and light mean love and wisdom. Morning in the first and highest level of love. Noon, wisdom in its light. Evening, wisdom in its shade. And the half-light, the dimness that comes just before the morning. Night, though, means the loss of love and wisdom. As the states of the inner levels of angels' love and wisdom change, so too, now here we get a little bit weird. Is it weirder than the rest of it? I can't tell. I've lost my weirdness gauge, being immersed in Swedenborg as much as I have. So too do the states of the various things that surround them and are visible to their eyes. Like I said, spiritually, in the spiritual world, it's the inner that dictates the outer. Whereas on the physical world, it's the outer which dictates the inner. So here, what's going on, what we see and what we experience, if we're here in the middle, has to do with the way physical laws are lining up around us and gravity and that sort of stuff. That's what's creating the landscape. That's what's shaping the experience. But spiritually, what's going on in the heart and mind actually affects the scenery. This is really where your thoughts and feelings change your reality. So when angels go through this change of mind and heart to things that like resemble nighttime in a psychological sense, there actually is night around them. So that when you're going through something, everything around you reflects it. That's the difference there. For the things that surround angels are given their appearance according to the things that are within them. We will describe what these are and what they are like in the later chapters where we discuss representations and appearances in heaven. You can go check it out. Just go way down here and you can download the book for free. Check it out yourself. But think of that. This is like what we try to replicate in movies, where you have a dramatic thing happen in dramatic scenery, or you have a depressing thing happen with depressing colors, and they do color correction on screen to make the mood around fit what's going on in the hearts and minds. There it really is. There, effortlessly, there is this poetry in everything that's happening, and the two are working together. The way the sights that greet your eyes are reinforcing or drawing out or somehow processing the state that's inside you. It all works in sync there. And now let's talk a little bit about why. why these cycles that we definitely can see why they happen in nature and how organisms respond to those, and why for the organisms that are adapted to environments where you cycle through seasons, why each one needs those seasons in order to go through its life cycle. And then if the climate changes dramatically, it suddenly can't survive where it was before. Why do angels need this? What does it do for them? How is this part of a loving God's perpetual existence plan in heaven? Each individual angel undergoes and passes through changes of state like this. And, but before we get to that, come on. This is cool. So too does each community collectively. So not just that you're on your journey, you're having your summers and falls and winters in your heart and mind. So do the people you're around. But each community on its own, this gathering of like-minded, purpose-united individuals, we too, like in organizations here, you see, everything's going great, everything's falling apart. This is happening on these larger levels as well. Still, one individual does so differently from another because people vary in love and wisdom. In a given community, there are people in the middle in a more perfect state than those who are around them all the way to the borders. So, like I said, internal stuff there dictates external conditions. If you say this is the border of some society, some community in heaven, I don't know if it's really a circle, but schematically, and you have some people who really have let God chase away their selfishness and really are sort of these sage kind of wise people that everyone looks to for help and guidance, they're in the center. Right? Not because they say, hey, I'm pretty good, can I get a house in the center? The natural spiritual gravity pulls them in there. And then those of us who are continue to work, are still more to the outside, which I'm sure you can be moving more and more into the center. So as these things encroach, as you have sort of darkness or night, and not night, like I spent that all the whole time saying there's no night in heaven, I almost ruined it. But as this stuff starts to encroach, it may affect those of us here on the outskirts more, who we can then look to them for help and comfort. They go through their own cycles, but maybe they're less pronounced, much like the equator of the world has less pronounced seasons than the things around it. There you have this pattern where we're going through this thing together, but we're doing it differently so we can help each other in the areas where we're strong when somebody else is not strong, and then vice versa. But it would take too long to recount the differences, since the quality of love and faith determines how each individual undergoes the changes. It's a different heaven for every single person. Consequently, one may be in clarity and delight, when another is in dimness and discomfort, even at the same time within the same community. So even though there's this pulse, there could be a time when your neighbor is saying, hey, I really need help, and you're there to give it. It happens differently in one community than in another too, and in communities of the heavenly kingdom differently than in communities of the spiritual kingdom, because heavenly is love-centric and spiritual is truth-centric. So to one, the noon may be the primary state, to another, the morning may be the primary state. There's a lot. It's a lot of people we're talking about. It's a complex thing. You think about how complex the world is, so it is with spiritual stuff. Broadly speaking, the differences in their changes of state are like the variations of states of days in one climate and another on earth. There it is morning for some people while it is evening for others, and some have warmth while others are cold, and vice versa. If you look at the whole planet, we're all on these cycles, but at different times. Okay, this is where I thought it was going to be that last paragraph, but this is actually where we're talking about what benefit does this bring. Nothing happens, especially in heaven, without benefit. So what benefit is this? As I have been told from heaven why changes of state like this occur, or I have been, angels have said that there are many reasons. So angels are on board with this. They get what's going on. First, this is one you might not have thought of. But it does aggressively address one of our initial questions. First, the delight of life and of heaven that angels enjoy because of the love and wisdom given them by the Lord would gradually pall if they were constantly engaged in it, the way it happens for people who are involved in pleasures and enjoyments without variety. Anything would get old if that's all you did. You ever been on vacation and you're somewhere awesome and I'm at the beach and first day is so great, but by the end of the time, you're still fun, but there's this little thing pulling you back to I want to do something productive. I want to get something done. There's just this tug, and that if you just sat there forever, it wouldn't have the same appeal. Anything can get old. And that this cycle is constantly refreshing and reminding angels of why the need to do things is what it is, that it actually would be anything that reducing life with all its, think about the complexity and everything we go through here, reducing it to just one thing wouldn't be fun. It's the meaning and the progression that makes it worth doing, even on the heavenly level. A second reason is that angels have a sense of self or self-image just as we do, meaning they have like a pride. They have, hey, look how cool I am. Not to the extent, it's not active to the extent that we have it, but it's there because angels are just us as we move down this progression. And this involves loving themselves. And the Swedenborgian term doesn't mean like, okay, I'm a good person. This is like, I want to be superior, I want to rule. The very thing we struggle against here, that's there in angels. It's just God is keeping it under wraps, but there's always improvement to it. All the people in heaven are kept free of their sense of self, and to the extent that the Lord does keep them free, they enjoy love and wisdom. To the extent they are not kept free, however, they are caught up in love for themselves. And since all of them do love that sense of self and carry it with them, these changes of state or successive alternations do occur, because you're still doing spiritual work while you're there. This is that Swedenborg talks about how you can never be fully perfected. You can always become more wise. You can always become more loving. Well, how do you do that? It's by continuing to work on and improve yourself. A third reason is that they are made more perfect in this way, since they become accustomed to being kept in love for the Lord and kept free from love for themselves. So if you totally forgot what it was to have any kind of struggle or any problems, how are you going to be in touch enough to help people who are struggling? How are you going to know what goodness is if you never know the opposite? Further, about these alternations of delight and discomfort, their perception and sensitivity to what is good become more and more delicate. That's just what I was saying. And I do know when I come through the end of a period of stress, I enjoy the simple things in life so much more when I understand the need for them. When you suddenly fear for somebody that you love, their safety or something like that, you remember what you actually feel for them. This is a way that we can be learning about the actual how good things are. And even with angels, even though it doesn't go down into the night like we have here or like hell has, there still is the seasons. And I think it's just the same that when spring comes around, that warmth feels really different than it does at the tail end of summer. This is like, oh, you can go outside without a coat on. You remember somehow this is God continuing to work us through that. And with the aim that things are always getting better. It's not like, oh, I'm always going to have this miserable cycles where I go really far down and it hurts. You are going up. God is moving us. You just think about you move into a better and better climate. Yeah, there's seasonal variations, but they're less and less. God is moving us into this amazingly happy state. But even in that state, there is going to continue to be learning. There's going to be variety. That God knows how to create the greatest long-term happiness. And that is through succession. It's through change and growth. While some things are constantly the same, but our vision of them, our understanding of them continues to upgrade. And in the end, you have a really exciting, meaningful, tangible sense of life where we can help each other, where we can improve, always moving upward into happier things, but with unending variety and a chance to be happier. That you're going to be the next cycle around, you're going to be even happier than you ever thought you could be the previous cycle. That's the news from heaven. Okay, hopefully that sticks with you, and we can think about, I think, a realistic, okay, I'm not trying to be free of anything negative, but it's in each thing. How am I remembering? Oh yeah, I'm going to go back up even when I'm down. It's going to be day, even if it's night now. It's going to be summer, even if it's winter now. And how am I going to learn and know the next cycle? How can this cycle carry me through to a better spring when it does come? Hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. Leave comments. How do these cycles play out in your life? How do you like the idea of a progressive, ever-evolving eternity? Let me know. Let each other know. Much appreciate everyone who takes the time to put in their input and watch this program and let this conversation continue. Let these ideas sprout in the mind and hopefully lead into the good actions that make life better and make the world better. So, thanks, guys. All right, talk to you soon.